You ever see a trend just explode out of nowhere? Or wonder why some ideas catch fire while others just fizzle out? It feels random, right? Well, today we're going to dig into one of the most famous books of the last few decades that tried to crack that very code.
Yep, we are talking about Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. This is a book that actually became a cultural phenomenon itself, all by promising to pull back the curtain on these social epidemics. And it all kicks off with a really simple but kind of baffling real-world puzzle. Okay, so picture this. It's the mid-90s. Hush Puppies shoes. Remember those? Well, back then, they were pretty much dead, selling only about 30,000 pairs a year. The company was literally about to pull the plug. And then, bam! Seemingly overnight, they are everywhere. Sales jumped to 430,000 pairs, then into the millions. I mean, how does that even happen? To answer that, we have to stop thinking about marketing and start thinking more like disease experts. Gladwell's whole big idea is that products, behaviors, and messages can spread through a population just like a virus.
He calls that moment of critical mass the tipping point. You know, it's that one magical instant where an idea crosses some invisible line, and what was once a weird, fringe thing suddenly becomes the next big thing. And according to Gladwell, this isn't random chance. Nope, he says it follows a pretty clear set of rules.
And that brings us right to the heart of his theory. He argues that every single social epidemic is driven by three specific rules: the law of the few, the stickiness factor, and the power of context. So let's break these down one by one.
First up, we've got the law of the few. Think of this like the 80-20 rule, but on steroids. Gladwell's saying that when it comes to making an idea go viral, a very, very small group of people does all the heavy lifting. Which, of course, leads to the big question, who are these people?
He breaks them down into three key types. You've got your connectors, your mavens, and your salesmen. Each one plays a totally unique and totally essential role in getting an idea to that tipping point.
First, you've got the connectors. These are the social superstars. The quote really says it all. They have a special gift for bringing the world together. These are the people who just seem to know everyone. They have friends in tons of different social circles and subcultures. Their power comes from their huge network, and they're the ones who spread the message far and wide.
Next up, the mavens. Okay, these are the data banks, the ask-me-anything people you go to before you make a big purchase. They just love to soak up knowledge, and they're driven to share it. Not because they want to persuade you, but just to help out. They're the ones who give the message its substance.
And finally, we have the salesmen. These are the master persuaders. Their secret weapon isn't just what they say, it's how they say it. They have this charisma, this energy, it's just contagious. They have this amazing ability to make us believe.
But look, having the right messengers is only one piece of the puzzle. What about the message itself? That's rule number 2, the stickiness factor. The idea has to be memorable. It has to, stick in your brain. It can't just go in one ear and out the other.
And the crazy thing is, making something sticky can be surprisingly simple. Gladwell brings up kids' TV shows. So Sesame Street was a huge deal, obviously. But Blue's Clues actually became stickier for kids by making a few small tweaks. They used a simpler story, way more repetition, a slower pace, and those little changes made the show absolutely irresistible for toddlers.
And the third and final rule is the power of context. This is the idea that the world around us, the environment where the message is spreading, is critically important. The time, the place, what's going on, all of it can either make us super receptive to a new idea or make us ignore it completely.
So, these three rules, they sound incredible, right? So clean, so compelling. They offer this neat, tidy explanation for a really chaotic world. But as soon as the book came out, a huge debate started. Is Gladwell a brilliant thinker, or is he just a really, really good storyteller?
And this slide just captures that divide perfectly. On one side, people see his work as full of these fascinating, thought-provoking ideas. On the other, critics say it's all based on flimsy, anecdotal evidence without any real scientific rigor. As one person on Reddit put it, you're constantly bouncing between, wow, that's a powerful insight, and, that feels like a big stretch.
So on one hand, you get people who are actually in the trenches, folks in advertising or marketing who say, yeah, this stuff rings true. We see these principles at work every single day. It just matches their real-world experience.
But the other side of the coin is this quote. The argument is that we need to remember what Gladwell is. He's a master storyteller, a journalist. He's not a research scientist. He takes these amazing little stories and builds these grand theories around them, which are incredible to read, but they're not always provable. And sometimes
sometimes they can be just plain wrong.
And this is where the story gets absolutely fascinating. Years after his book became this massive bestseller, Gladwell himself went back to the most famous example from The Tipping Point and made a pretty shocking admission.
So the big case study was the incredible drop in crime in New York City back in the 90s. Gladwell argued it was all thanks to the broken windows theory, this idea that if you crack down on small stuff like graffiti and turnstile jumping, you create an environment of order that prevents big, violent crimes. And this led to controversial tactics like stop and frisk.
Then, something unexpected happened. A perfect real-world experiment. In 2013, a judge ruled the NYPD's stop and frisk policy was unconstitutional. So what happened? The number of stops just plummeted, from almost 700,000 a year down to less than 50,000. So everyone, including Gladwell, braced for crime to spike.
But it didn't. In fact, the exact opposite happened. After they stopped broken windows policing, the crime rate in New York didn't just stay low, it entered a second, even more miraculous decline. The theory that seemed so perfect just fell apart when it was actually tested.
And this led to this incredibly powerful moment of self-reflection. Gladwell got on the TED stage and just admitted it. He said he told the story like he had the final answer, but the story wasn't over, and the real answer was way more complicated. He just flat out said, "I was wrong."
So why does all this matter? Well, the takeaway here is actually pretty profound. It shows that even our best, most persuasive theories are just snapshots in time. We have to keep testing them against new information. The search for understanding doesn't end when you find a good story. Usually, that's just where it begins.
Which leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The Tipping Point gave us this amazing new way to think about how change happens. But maybe the story of Gladwell himself, re-examining his own biggest idea, maybe that offers an even more important lesson, a lesson about being humble and about having the courage to look at your own work and say, you know what? I think I got that one wrong.